Left to die in the dark, the night was cold and quiet. The forest was still, with only the sound of wind moving through the trees. In the middle of that darkness, something strange lay hidden under old leaves and broken branches. She was not human. Her skin was a soft blue, almost gray, and her eyes were closed. Wounds covered her arms. Parts of her body had wires and metal plates, half living, half machine. She looked like a broken doll from another world. She was dying. Her name was Sarah, but even she had forgotten it. She didn't know where she was, or who had brought her here. Her last memory was of bright lights, sharp tools, and voices that didn't care. "We can't fix her," one voice had said. "She's a failure. Leave her. Let nature finish it." Those were the last words she heard from her own kind. Alien doctors had tried to repair her. She was part of an experiment, something between science and war. But when her body stopped responding, they gave up. They flew to Earth, dropped her in the middle of nowhere, and left. To them, she was trash. But Earth was not empty. Miles away, a man named David Cole walked through the forest with a flashlight in one hand and a backpack over his shoulder. He wasn't a soldier anymore, not since the last war. Now he lived alone, far from people, with only his dog and memories. That night, something pulled him deeper into the trees. He didn't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate. He saw something shiny under the moonlight. At first, he thought it was a machine. But as he got closer, he saw her face. He stopped. His breath caught in his throat. "What the hell?" He whispered. She was breathing, but just barely. Her chest rose and fell slowly, painfully. Her body looked broken. One arm was cut open and a soft blue liquid, her blood, was leaking into the dirt. David looked around. No ship, no trail, no sign of where she had come from. He knew he should walk away. She wasn't human. She might be dangerous. Maybe a trap, but her face, she looked scared, lost, like someone who had already given up. David knelt beside her. He gently touched her neck to check for a pulse. It was there, weak but steady. "You're alive," he said, more to himself than to her. She didn't respond. He looked at her wounds, deep but not infected. Her metal parts were sparking a little, but not active. "I can't take you to a hospital," he said quietly. "They'd lock me up, or worse." He thought for a moment. Then an idea came to him, strange, but maybe the only choice. A vet, his old friend, Dr. Lisa Moore, had been a military animal doctor. She had seen strange things before. She didn't ask many questions. David took off his jacket and wrapped it around the girl. She was so light, it scared him. Like she had nothing left inside. As he carried her, her eyes opened just a little. She didn't speak, just stared at him with weak, confused eyes. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I don't know what you are, but I'm not going to leave you here." The road was long and quiet. He drove fast, checking the back seat every few seconds. She didn't move. When they reached Lisa's farm, it was almost morning. Chickens made soft sounds from their pens. The barn stood quiet under the early light. Lisa came out with a cup of coffee, her hair messy from sleep. When she saw David, she raised an eyebrow. "You look like hell," she said. "I brought something," he replied. "Someone." Lisa frowned. "Human?" David shook his head. "I don't think so." He opened the car door. Lisa's eyes went wide. "What the? Is this a prank?" "No, she's real. She's alive. And she needs help." Lisa stepped closer. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stared. "She's injured," David said. "But not just physically. It's like she's shutting down." Lisa nodded slowly. "Bring her inside. I'll need tools and a strong stomach." David carried Sarah into the barn. The air inside was warm and smelled like hay. Lisa cleared a space on the table. "I can't promise anything," she said, "but I'll try." As they started cleaning her wounds, Sira opened her eyes again. This time, they held a question. A deep, silent question. Why? Why help me? She didn't say it, but David felt it, and he answered, softly, without thinking. Because no one deserves to die in the dark. A vet, a secret, a new hope. The barn smelled like dust, old wood, and quiet fear. Dr. Lisa Moore stood with her gloves on, staring at the strange girl lying on her exam table. She had treated horses, dogs, snakes, even a baby tiger once, but never anything like this. The girl wasn't just wounded. She was wrong, too cold, too quiet. Her body looked half alive, half built. Strange symbols moved slowly under her skin, like glowing veins. "She's not an animal," Lisa whispered. "And she's not human either." David stood in the corner, arms crossed, eyes locked on the girl. "I told you," he said. "She's something else, but she's still a person." Lisa looked at him. "You sure she's not dangerous?" "She had every reason to kill me last night. She didn't." Lisa nodded slowly. "All right. Let's see what we can do." She leaned over and touched the girl's skin. It was soft like rubber mixed with silk. When Lisa pressed near a wound, the girl flinched just slightly. "She feels pain," Lisa said. "That means she can feel other things too." For the next hour, they worked silently. They cleaned her wounds. Some bled blue. Some sparked faintly. Lisa used tools meant for machines and tools meant for animals. She used instinct more than science. Nothing in her books covered this. David kept watching her face. He didn't know why, but he felt like if she woke up again, it might change something. Then, her fingers twitched. Lisa froze. David stepped closer. The girl's eyes opened, just a little, glowing silver. No fear this time, only confusion. She looked around, blinking slowly. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. Lisa knelt beside her. "It's okay. You're safe." The girl didn't respond. But she didn't look away either. David stepped forward. "Do you understand me?" The girl stared at him. "Do you know where you are?" She blinked once. Then again. Lisa leaned close and said gently, "Do you know your name?" The girl's lips parted. A dry, cracked voice came out. "Sira." It was barely a whisper, but it was the first sign of life. David felt something heavy lift from his chest. "You remember," he said. Sira blinked. One tear, clear and glowing, slipped down her cheek. "Why am I here?" she asked. Her voice was soft, broken, but real. "Lisa." And David looked at each other. "You were left to die," Lisa said gently. "But he found you." Sira turned her head toward David. "Why? Help?" He didn't answer right away. He just sat beside the table and looked into her eyes. "Because you didn't ask for this," he said. "Because I've seen people thrown away before, and I couldn't do nothing." Sira stared at him, as if trying to understand the meaning behind every word. Her body was still weak. But something inside her had started waking up. That night, while Sira slept under a heat lamp, Lisa pulled David aside. "She's not just injured," she whispered. "She's lost. Whatever she went through, it broke more than her body." David nodded. "She doesn't even know if she should be alive." Lisa looked toward the barn. "We can fix the wounds. But the mind? The heart? That's harder." David thought about it in silence. "I'll teach her," he said at last. "If she wants to learn." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Learn what?" David looked up at the night sky. "What it means to be human." The next morning, Sira sat up for the first time. She held a blanket around her thin shoulders. She looked at David, then at Lisa, then at the dog lying nearby. She pointed. "What is that?" David smiled. "That's Max. He's a dog. Sarah looked confused. Safe? David nodded. Very safe. Just don't touch his tail. Sarah watched Max wag his tail and lay his head on her foot. Her body tensed but then relaxed. For the first time, Sarah smiled. Just a little. It was small. It was quiet. But it was real. And in that smile was a new beginning. The body starts to heal, but the mind is broken. The rain came soft that morning, tapping on the barn roof like fingers playing a quiet song. Sarah sat in a corner of the barn, wrapped in an old army blanket, watching water drip from the wooden beams above her. Max the dog lay nearby, chewing slowly on an old shoe. Every now and then, he looked at her and wagged his tail, but she didn't move. She barely blinked. Outside, the world was full of life. Inside her, everything was silent. Her body was getting stronger. Lisa's medicine and strange metal tools had done something. Closed her wounds, cooled her skin, slowed the shaking in her hands. Her circuits no longer sparked. The pain had become dull, almost gone. But her heart? That was still frozen. She didn't understand this place, or these people. They were soft, but strong. They helped without asking for anything. No collars. No commands. No experiments. She didn't trust it. Couldn't trust it. Not yet. David walked into the barn carrying 2 mugs, one with coffee, the other with warm broth. He handed the second to Sarah. You need energy, he said. Sarah stared at the cup for a few seconds, then took it slowly. She sipped. Warm. Strange. But not bad. David sat beside her on the hay-covered floor. His voice was calm, as if speaking to a scared animal. Do you know what day it is? Sarah shook her head. Me neither, he said with a small smile. Silence. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notepad and a pen. Let's try something. I'll teach you a few words. You can draw or write, if you want. Sarah looked at the pen like it was a weapon. Then she took it. Carefully, on the first page, David wrote, Safe, friend, trust. He pointed at each word and said it slowly. Sarah repeated after him. Her voice was dry, unsure. Safe, friend, trust. David nodded. Good. That's enough for today. Sarah didn't smile this time, but she held the pen tighter. Later that evening, Lisa was feeding the horses when she saw something strange. One of the barn cats, small, nervous, always hiding, was curled up beside Sarah on the hay. Not running. Not afraid. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Well, that's new. Sarah looked up. It came to me. Lisa smiled. Animals can feel pain, but they also feel kindness. Sarah looked down at the cat. I didn't do anything. Lisa crouched beside her. Sometimes, just not being cruel is enough. That night, Sarah had a dream. She was back in the alien lab. Bright lights, cold metal, voices around her. She's broken. Shut her down. No use. She opened her eyes. She was strapped to a table, wires in her arms, machines inside. Her head, no sky, no air. Then another voice. A new one. Soft, rough, human. You're not a machine. You're just lost. She turned toward the voice. David. He reached out his hand through the dream. She tried to grab it and woke up. Gasping. Shaking. David was sitting nearby, working on something with wires. He looked at her and nodded gently. Bad dream? Sarah nodded. David passed her a flashlight. Next time, you can wake me up. I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, Sarah took her first steps outside the barn. The wind hit her face. The sun made her blink. Lisa watched from the porch. She's healing. David crossed his arms. Physically, yes. Lisa nodded slowly, but something is still missing. David didn't answer. He was watching Sarah walk across the grass barefoot. one step at a time, like someone touching the world for the first time. Inside her, the battle was still going. Between memory and hope, between programming and choice, between the past that tried to erase her, and the humans trying to give her a future. Trouble comes searching. The air changed before the sky did. It was still morning, still calm, but something unseen had entered the wind. Birds flew lower. Max barked at shadows that weren't there. Even the horses in the stable stamped their hooves nervously, as if they could sense what the humans could not. Sarah was in the garden, touching a sunflower for the first time. She pressed her fingers against the soft yellow petals and whispered the word David had taught her. Alive. Behind her, David walked out holding a small radio and an old map. He smiled when he saw her speaking to the flower. He didn't say anything, just watched. But then the radio crackled. Static. Then silence. Then unidentified energy pulse. Detected. Sector 12. Earth-based trace signal. Origin unclear. David froze. That voice wasn't from Earth military. He turned the volume down fast and looked at Sira. She was staring back at him. Not smiling now, her body tense, like she recognized the voice. That was them, wasn't it? He asked. Sira didn't speak. Her eyes filled with something ancient. Not fear, something colder. They're looking for you. Far above Earth, in the cold black between stars, a sleek silver ship moved silently. Inside, 3 beings in dark armor stood before a glowing screen. Subject 34. Biomachine hybrid. Escaped. Current signal weak but present. One of them pressed his hand against the glass. His voice was sharp and motionless. She was marked for disposal. Someone interfered. Another nodded. Send the seekers. Burn the trace. Destroy the evidence. Below them, Earth spun slowly. Unaware. Back at the barn, Lisa checked the old computers. Her hands moved quickly, her mind racing. This wasn't just a blip, she said to David. That signal had code in it, alien code. Hidden in the frequency. David clenched his jaw. How long do we have? I don't know. Hours? A day? Depends how close they already are. Sira stood silently in the doorway. The wind lifted her hair as she looked up at the clouds. I should leave, she said. David turned. No. If they find me, they'll kill you both. Lisa folded her arms. If they wanted Earth quiet, they shouldn't have dropped you here in the first place. Sira stared at her. You don't understand. They don't stop. They clean up everything. David stepped forward. Then we fight. Sira looked confused. Fight? With what? David opened the barn doors fully. Inside, in the far corner, under a tarp, was a locked chest. Lisa sighed. I was hoping we'd never open that. David grinned without humor. Me too. He pulled off the tarp and opened the chest. Inside, old tech, military-grade gear. MP grenades, drones, field armor. A rifle, with a scope still marked property of Earth forces. Sira's eyes widened. You were a soldier? David nodded. I was a cleanup man, too. Not proud of it. He tossed her a scanner. You want to survive? We stop hiding. That night, Sira worked in silence, fixing old Earth tech using alien skill. Her fingers moved with memory she didn't know she still had. She rewired a drone using parts from Lisa's tractor. She turned a broken weather sensor into a motion alarm. She even created a light field that scrambled basic scanners, something no one on Earth had ever seen. Lisa watched her in awe. You're not just some experiment, she said softly. You're something new. Sira didn't answer. She was building fast. Not just machines, but something else too. A choice. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the motion alarm beeped. David was already awake. So was Max. So was Sira. A red light blinked slowly on the scanner. Sira looked at it. They're here, David chambered around. Then let's welcome them. Sira stepped beside him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. No more running. Run or fight, the first shot wasn't loud, it was quiet, too quiet. A small pop echoed through the trees, followed by a sharp flash of blue light. One of the barn's cameras went dark. Inside, David didn't move. He just muttered, "They're testing range." First shot is always a warning. Sira stood near the wall, her hand resting on a panel she had built from earth metal and alien memory. It hummed under her palm, soft and alive. "They're not here to talk," she said. "They're here to erase." Lisa loaded the last of the supply crates into the old truck. "Then what's the plan?" David looked at Sira. "It's not my decision anymore." Sira stared at him. The question had followed her for days. Run or fight? She could still run. She knew how to hide. She could vanish into the forests, the oceans, even the stars. She could let these kind people live. By leaving them behind, but something inside her had changed. Voice in her head, the same voice that once begged to be free, was now whispering something new. Stand in the forest. The hunters moved like shadows. Tall, silent, machine-blooded. They weren't soldiers. They were cleaners designed not to leave witnesses. One of them raised a hand. Pause. Heat signature. 10 meters. The ground under his foot clicked. A soft beep. Then dash boom. The trap exploded upward, knocking two of them back into the trees. Smoke rose. Screams in their own coded language filled the air. Back at the barn, David smiled. Trap 1 worked. Sira checked the signal. 2 more moving in, north side. Lisa picked up a wrench and shook her head. "This is not how I thought my Tuesday would go." The second attack came fast. 2 hunters cloaked in plasma light dropped from the trees, rushing toward the barn. Their weapons hummed not bullets, but heat pulses that could melt steel. Sira stepped forward. Her eyes flickered silver. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a sphere. She threw it. The moment it touched the ground, it burst, sending out a pulse of alien energy. The hunters stopped mid-run. Confused. Their weapons jammed. Their suits glitched. Lisa, holding her shotgun, shouted, "Now!" David fired. 1 clean shot. 1 down. Sira lunged forward and, with a flick of her wrist, sent a shock through the second one's chest plate. He dropped, twitching. Silence returned. Max barked once. Victory. But Sira wasn't smiling. She looked at the bodies. They'll send more. Later that night, Lisa wrapped a bandage around David's arm where a pulse blast had burned his skin. "You okay?" she asked. "I've had worse," he said. He looked at Sira. "You've done more in 1 day than some armies do in months." Sira sat on the barn roof, legs swinging over the edge, eyes on the stars. "I was made for war," she said. "But not for choice." Lisa asked quietly, "And what are you choosing now?" Sira didn't answer right away. "I'm choosing not to run." That night, she returned to the garden. The sunflower she had touched days ago was still there, damaged, burned at the edges from the heat blast. But alive. Sira touched it again. "I understand now," she whispered. Behind her, David came up the hill. "They'll come back stronger," he said. "Maybe with a ship this time." "I hope they do," she said, without fear. "Because this time I'll be ready." She looked at him. "And I won't let them hurt my people." David raised an eyebrow. "Your people?" Sira nodded. "I've decided. The heart wins blood, and fire don't always leave marks on the skin. Sometimes they burn inside." Sira stood alone in the field, lit only by the weak morning sun. Smoke still curled in the air behind her, the remains of last night's fight. 2. Alien bodies lay far beyond the tree line, already covered by ash and fallen leaves, silent, forgotten. She wasn't looking at them. She was looking at her hands. one human. One metal. One built for touch. One built for war. She flexed her fingers slowly and whispered to herself, I chose this. Inside the barn, David was unconscious. A blast during the fight had knocked him back hard, slamming him into the wall. Lisa had done all she could, wrap his ribs, stopped the bleeding, but his breathing was shallow, weak. He's fading, Lisa said softly. Wiping her eyes, Sarah didn't speak. She sat beside David, her body still bruised, her system still recovering, but her eyes steady. He saved me, she said. Again and again, Lisa looked at her. Then do something. I know you have tech in you that we don't understand. Sarah shook her head. My tech destroys. It doesn't heal. Lisa took her hand. Then maybe stop using it how they built it. Use it how you want to. Sarah closed her eyes. She remembered the lab. The cold tables. The pain. Machines wired into her brain told her what to feel. When to move. When to attack. But once, long ago, one test failed. She felt sadness. The doctors said it was a glitch. They tried to erase it, but it stayed. Now, in this quiet barn, next to the first person who ever treated her like she mattered, that sadness returned. And this time, it brought strength. She placed her hand over David's chest. Her fingers began to glow soft, gold light this time, not blue, not cold, not war. Warmth spread under his ribs. His heartbeat, faint before, grew steadier. Lisa stepped back, eyes wide. What are you doing? I don't know, Sarah whispered. But it feels right. The metal in her arm shifted shape. Tubes connected. Skin lit up. Her system stopped taking commands from her creators and started listening to her. She transferred her energy, not just power, but intention. Not weaponry. Healing. David gasped and opened his eyes. Sarah smiled, not wide, not bright, but full of something new. Peace. You came back, he said weakly. She nodded. I chose to. Later that evening, as the wind blew gently through the fields, Sarah sat by the fire, Lisa tending to David nearby. No alarms. No weapons. Just quiet. David turned toward her. You saved my life. Sarah replied, You saved mine first. I just returned the heart. He raised an eyebrow. That's a strange thing for a weapon to say. I'm not a weapon anymore, she said softly. Lisa poured tea and handed it to her. Double quotes. No, you're something else now. Outside, above the stars, the enemy still moved. A larger ship had received the last distress ping, but something had changed. The girl they once threw away was no longer broken. She wasn't just alive, she was awake, and she had something they could never understand. A heart that chose to fight, not to kill, but to protect. She chooses Earth. It started with a single question, not from a scientist, not from a soldier, from a little girl standing at the edge of the barn fence, holding a wildflower. Are you a robot or a person? Sarah blinked. She had survived weapons, fire, the cold stars, and the hands of her own creators, but that question? That one made her pause. I don't know, she said honestly. The girl thought for a moment, then smiled and handed her the flower. Well, if you're kind, I think you're a person. And just like that, it was decided. The final warning came at sunrise. Lisa's laptop lit up with a message not written in any Earth language. David read the symbols anyway. He'd seen them once, long ago, in a file marked classified first contact. Full retrieval in 12 hours. Resistance equals erasure. Sarah stood behind him. She didn't flinch, didn't tremble. Instead, she spoke words that even surprised her. Then let them come. David turned. You don't have to stay. You can run. You've done enough. No, she said. I haven't. For hours. She walked the land she had once been dumped on. She touched the trees. Listened to the wind. Fed the chickens. Watched. Lisa talked to a tired mother whose dog was limping. No panic. No fear. Just living. No one stared at her anymore. Number. One asked what she was. They just accepted her. Not because they understood her, but because she stayed. By sunset, the ship appeared. No lights. No roar. Just a shadow that swallowed the clouds. People in town looked up and held their breath. But Sira didn't run. She walked into the open field alone and stared up at the ship that once decided she was trash. And for the first time, the ship hesitated. A voice came through the air, smooth and cold. You are not authorized to remain. Return for dismantling. Final notice. Sira didn't move. Instead, she pressed a small button on her chest. All around the field, devices activated. Her devices. A new grid. A new kind of defense built from earth and heart and will. This planet is mine now, she said, her voice calm. You cannot claim territory. You are failed tech. I'm not tech, she said. I'm something you forgot how to make. What? I'm free. A single beam fired from the ship. White-hot plasma, but Sira had seen it coming. She raised her hand and her shield, a blend of alien light and earth engineering, caught it in the sky like a god reaching for thunder. The beam shattered. The field held. The ship trembled. From the distance, David whispered, She's not just choosing Earth. Lisa nodded, watching the sky spark. Earth is choosing her. The ship pulled back, not because it was defeated. But because, for the first time, it was unsure. It had lost control over something it created, and that made it afraid. That night, Sira sat on the porch with Max at her feet, and a flower in her hand, the same one the little girl gave her. Lisa brought her tea. David handed her a book. The town went to sleep peacefully, unaware of how close they came to the stars ending them. Sira looked at the sky one last time and whispered to it, I don't belong to you anymore. Then she looked at the earth beneath her feet. Belong here.